goal is to make sure that Iran never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, develops nuclear weapons. And my opponent on the other side doesn't seem to have a problem with that. He doesn't think Iran ever wants to develop nuclear weapons. So why don't you come to the table, make a deal that will make it absolutely impossible to do what you say Iran wants to do, and that is not develop a nuclear weapon. We can have peace if you come to the table and present the United States and the world with an airtight, not the old plan, but an airtight plan to do what you say you want to do. That is, prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons. So here we can be on the same page here, and we can avoid further war. Just come to the table and do that. Just assure the world that your promise, which is hollow, obviously, speaking on behalf of the Iranian regime, that you don't want to develop nuclear weapons, that your promise can actually be made certain on the ground. Then we can have peace.
Oh, is it my turn? Because you've been, for the last half an hour, you've been busy with the spokesman for genocide and Epstein's buddy, who used to go to Rape Island with him. For a person who frequented Rape Island, I think anything that he says is nonsense. And see, I listened to him. But he's a lawyer, yet he cannot tolerate the words of a layman. That's how weak his argument is. Now, of course, someone who supports the genocidal regime of Israel would say this sort of nonsense. And of course, we recall how the South African government in its ICJ complaint showed genocidal intent by the Israeli regime, including the Israeli prime minister, whose spokesman you brought on and had this little love fest before this discussion. Let the viewers judge, Piers. I know where you stand, Piers. I saw your previous interview with Ehud Barak. I saw it with this spokesman. We know where you stand, so that's not really important. You stand with the ethno-supremacist regime. I once asked you 3 times in a row, do you consider an ethno-supremacist regime to be legitimate? And you refused to answer. And the tone of your language, the fact that you do not, the fact that I'm not allowed to speak. Hang
on, just to be clear,
my regime is infinitely superior to your genocidal regime that helped the Israeli regime in the genocide. My regime, as you like to call it, your guest doesn't want me to speak, obviously. My regime did not pull the plug on little infants in the hospital, in the premature babies in the Al-Nasser hospital. Pull the plug on those premature babies and let them die. My regime didn't do that. The regime that you support did that. But getting back to the topic, the reality is that chemical weapons were used on our country with the support of your government. I survived 2 chemical attacks. And then your guest has the audacity to say that Iran would use weapons of mass destruction. During the Iran-Iraq war, the state, the leader, refused to produce chemical weapons, even though the military politicians asked him. He said, no, it's immoral. So we had to suffer your chemical weapons, and your governments prevented our government from even purchasing gas masks. My gas mask was bought on the black market. It was North Korean. So don't talk about weapons of mass destruction to me when my friends have died because of your chemical weapons. Your regime is the regime that has used nuclear weapons twice. And your ally, your genocidal ally, the apartheid regime, the illegitimate regime, where 44% of young Jews below the age of 35 in the United States, believe that Jews and Palestinians have to live together in one state with equal rights. That is exactly the Iranian policy. So despite your propaganda, despite your nonsense, despite the lies that you promote, people are waking up. Jews in the United States are waking up. Christians, Muslims, people from all walks of life are seeing who's carrying out a Holocaust in Gaza. You know, Ronald Reagan, when this genocidal regime in 1982 invaded Lebanon, he called it a Holocaust. This is far worse than the Holocaust of 1982. But you refuse to acknowledge this genocide. Whereas the population in Gaza has collapsed. It's not 70 or 80,000 people who've died. As a result of this war, hundreds of thousands have died. The population has collapsed. People are dying every day, not just because the kids are being bombed or being sniped, because they're dying of illnesses and a lack of medicine that this filthy regime is imposing on the people, on the kids of Gaza. But you want to look away and antagonize the Iranian people or the Palestinians or Hezbollah or whoever else it is that you like to antagonize so that they can get away with this. But you will not be able to do so because people are waking up across the world.
I need to get Alan to respond.
I'm not at all a supporter of Ben-Gvir. I'm not a supporter of Smotrich. I am a supporter of the nation state of the Jewish people. I am a proud Zionist. Zionism is the national liberation movement of the Jewish people. Israel is the only non-colonialist state in the Middle East. All the other states were established by colonialist regimes after the First World War. Israel fought against colonialism and self-determination. I think I'm in 1935, and I'm sitting opposite Joseph Goebbels right now, and he's making the propaganda case for the Nazi regime just the way this professor is making the propaganda case for the new Nazi regime, which is the regime of Iran. Will you at least admit, sir, will you at least admit that Iran murdered in cold blood as many as 50,000 innocent protesters? And would you admit, if that's true, that that comes closer to genocide than anything that Israel has been accused of doing in self-defense after its people were raped, kidnapped, murdered on October 7th? Would you at least admit that the Iranian regime has killed many, many, many thousands of people? Yes or no?
You know, we are not in 1935. We are not in 1939. We are in 1942. You are the Nazi regime that is carrying out a Holocaust in Gaza. You are the Nazi who is doing it as we speak. You're the evil monster. You say Israel is not a colonial regime? You're from Eastern Europe. You're European. All of those Ashkenazi Jews who are now running the country, they're from Eastern Europe. You came and slaughtered. I'm talking. I didn't interrupt you as you were ranting. The people who you support, the people who are running the country, they're Polish. They're Ukrainian. They're from Czechoslovakia. They're from Eastern Europe. You're not even Semite. You're the anti-Semite because you've been slaughtered. You won't let me talk. You are afraid. You're afraid because you know you have no argument. You have no leg to stand on. You slaughtered the Semite Palestinians and you took their land. And you are a proud Zionist who supports a regime that celebrates the rapists in prison. They rape Palestinians in prison and then they're celebrated on television. You're exposing yourself. You're exposing yourself just as you exposed yourself with Epstein.
I'm Israel.
So in response to your nonsense, The nonsense about 50,000 people, those
Nonsense?
lies have been responded to by the Iranian people. Stop ranting. I'm speaking. You're a lawyer. You're a lawyer. 3,117 people died thanks to an armed insurgency that your regime and the Israeli regime funded and supported. You're a coward. You are a coward. You won't let me talk. You're afraid. You're afraid of me talking.
Don't tell me I'm afraid.
The lawyer, Epstein's lawyer, Trump's lawyer, is afraid of me, a layman, talking. Why? Because you have no legs to stand on. You're a coward. You won't let me talk. I let you talk because I'm not afraid of you. People are not afraid of you anymore. You can kill Epstein. You can kill whoever you like, but we're not afraid. You can bomb my house. You can kill me with my family, but I'm not afraid of you. I will support the Palestinian people until your regime bombs my home. So go and tell them that. I'm prepared to die for the Palestinian people. But you who used to frequent Epstein Island, you have no principles and no morality. The Iranian people came to the streets in the tens of millions. We all know it. The footage is there. The international journalists were there, not just in Iran, but in Iraq. The Iranian people have spoken whose side they are. No one is going to be fooled by your propaganda to justify war.
How many times do you think I was at Jeffrey Epstein's island? How many times? Say it again so we could get it on tape. How many times?
One time is more than enough, but I think you've been there 5, 6 times.
Multiple times. How many times do you think I was there?
I think you were there 5, 6 times.
Say it again. 5, 6 times? Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
I was his lawyer, just the way I was the lawyer for Palestinians.
What a naive lawyer.
No, don't interrupt me. I was the lawyer for Palestinian students who tried to hang the flag when Yasser Arafat died. I was the lawyer for Nazis in Skokie, Illinois. I helped represent them. I would even represent you if anybody tried to prevent you.
I don't need you.
I'm a lawyer.
I don't need you.
A lawyer does, and that's what lawyers should be proud of. I mean, I'm going to continue to represent people you don't like, as long as I have the current strength to do it. And you can cite that as an argument against Israel, but it has nothing to do with Israel. It's just an ad hominem attack on me as a lawyer and on the American legal system. You wouldn't understand the American legal system because you don't have a legal
yourself said you regret being his lawyer, so don't talk nonsense.
I don't regret being his lawyer. I'm proud to have been his lawyer. I'm proud to have been President Clinton's lawyer. I'm proud to have been Ted Kennedy's lawyer. I'm proud to have been the lawyer for hundreds of indigent people who didn't have enough money to have a lawyer. And I would be happy to go to Iran and represent the people who can't get lawyers there, who were executed yesterday because they went to demonstrations. You have to say what you're saying.
The two people who were executed yesterday, and I've tweeted the footage. The two people, I'm glad you said this. You are so naive. You're not a good lawyer. I tweeted this yesterday, and I will retweet it after this debate. The two people who were executed yesterday, they burned 4 police officers alive and stabbed them.
Who were executed before that?
They were executed because of murdering 4 police officers. So I will retweet that today. But that's and that, by the way, what happened during that armed? Don't be afraid. Let me explain. Don't be afraid of people listening. You are the one. You are the one from the civilized world. You are the proud Zionist, the ethno-supremacist that we should all be listening to. So don't worry about what. Don't worry if people hear what I say. Your own Israeli regime, the regime that you love so much, is self-admitted that they were behind the armed insurgency. Channel 14 of the Israeli regime, which is close to Netanyahu itself, said, and I tweeted this, and others have too, that the Israeli regime, they helped send in, along with Americans, they helped send in the weapons that killed hundreds of police officers during those 2 days of armed insurgency. Your own regime admits it. Your own regime.
I hope that's true. I would like to see the United States and Israel together topple the Iranian regime and replace it by a democratic regime where all people can vote and all people have free speech. I would be happy to participate in any such attempt to try to topple this Nazi regime. That's what would have happened in 1935 if they had done the right thing. We have a chance now to have peace in the world by toppling the Iranian regime. It won't happen overnight. It won't happen quickly. But ultimately, the good people of Iran, will rise up against their evil leaders who kill them in the street and will give them, ultimately, for the first time, real democracy. That's what we want.
So says the genocide supporter. The genocide supporter who's supporting an ongoing genocide where every day Palestinians are dying, every single day as we speak. And Western media won't tell anyone about it because it's controlled by the same sort of people who you are aligned to. Those kids who are dying of disease every day. Those parents who are dying every day because of a lack of proper food and medicine. You are responsible. And all those Western journalists who've been trying to distract public opinion away from it. The only guilt of the Iranian people, and Hezbollah and Yemen is that they say no to genocide. That has been the guilt for 47 years. For decades, your regime has been supporting the apartheid and genocidal regime of Israel and supporting the most brutal regimes across the world in Latin America and Africa, in our region and in Asia. But Israel the only time, but your hostility is towards Iran because Iran says no to ethno-supremacism, just like 46% of young Jews in the United States. Iran says no to genocide, no to ethnic cleansing, no to colonization, and that Palestine must be a land where Jews and Christians and Muslims live as equal human beings. Your regime, your Israeli regime, because you're not loyal to the United States, you're loyal to the Israeli regime, to the genocidal regime. Your regime bombed during this war. Your regime bombed a synagogue. Your regime bombed a synagogue in Tehran. Why? Because that synagogue was not a Zionist synagogue. You hate Jews. You hate Jews that are not Zionists. You are an anti-Semite because you kill Palestinians, and you're from Eastern Europe. You have no right to slaughter and rape and murder.
All right, let me bring Alan back in here.
Because we have a democracy and we vote for what we want. Iran, on the other hand, in which only Muslims have rights, in which there's no free speech, there hasn't been an election for almost forever. They don't have those rights.
When you say Iran has no freedom of speech, your host, I've invited him to come to Iran on multiple occasions to see if there is free speech. When I tell him to read the book Going to Tehran, he gets angry because it goes against his narrative. But you speak on behalf of an ethno-supremacist regime, and you speak of free speech. Your country is run by oligarchs. You think that the people of the United States have free speech when they lose their jobs, when on campus they can't talk out against the Israeli regime and the brutality of the regime? Don't talk nonsense. People lose their jobs in your country. Their futures are destroyed when they speak truth to power.